Thank you very much to be here for one more special lecture on the Agile Methods Lab. And today I am really pleased to have Linda Rising. And I was reading her bio. There are so many great things that she did, wrote 4 amazing books, several articles. She has this kind of really agile mindset, and she's just amazing. So she's just so great, and I'm so happy to have her here. That let's listen to her. This is the most important thing. Thank you very much, Linda.
Thank you. What a kind introduction. I'm so happy to be here. Actually, since Thanksgiving is coming up for those of us in the US, we are all now saying that we are thankful for so many things. So I'm thankful that you invited me to be here. I'm thankful for all the good work that you're doing in Brazil. And I'm thankful that we are all still alive and doing well and staying safe. And I hope that sometime soon we can all be together. So I'm going to talk about what I call the Agile mindset. And this first slide has a lot of information just about me, my website, how you can reach me via email. If you don't get to ask a question today, please send me some email with any questions or comments. I'm happy to share the slides with you. There are no copyright symbols on any of these slides. If you would like to have them, they are yours. You can translate them to your favorite language. You can change the background. You can do anything you want. And then finally, I am on Twitter a little bit, and let's connect on LinkedIn. So don't raise your hands. I can't see all of you anyway. I just want you to think for a minute about whether you mostly agree or whether you mostly disagree with these two very different attitudes about intelligence. So the very first one is intelligence is something very basic that you can't change. You're born with it or not. You have it or you don't have it. Of course, you can learn new things, but you really can't change how intelligent you are. That first attitude is called by the researchers fixed. And you can see why fixed might apply. Because what it says about intelligence is that intelligence is fixed. You can't change it. Of course, you can learn a few things, but your basic, essential intelligence is something you can't change. Let's look at the second attitude, number 2. No matter how intelligent you are, you can always get better. Sometimes you can improve a lot. Now, I have taken many intelligence tests. I've been to graduate school many times, and every time I had to take the graduate records exam. My brother was a researcher in the area of intelligence testing, and he says you can't change your scores. The scores on standardized tests have been developed so carefully that it's impossible for you, no matter what you learn or how you grow in your understanding of a domain, you can't change those. And I'm here to tell you that I have my scores from all those tests, and I can see that I got better. My intelligence did change. My ability to solve math problems, science problems, my understanding of language, they all got better as I learned more, as I grew in understanding. So my bias is toward number 2. Yes, you can measure intelligence. Yes, I am probably not a genius, but I know that over time I have gotten better. I have worked hard. I have spent time and effort to learn, and I got better. Now, these two attitudes are in all of us. We have all of these attitudes for some things or others, but most of us lean in one direction or another. We are primarily fixed, or we are primarily growth or agile. And this is not just true for intelligence. This is true for everything. We could substitute intelligence for talent, musical talent, talent in playing a sport, any ability, any talent we have. We tend to believe you have a fixed amount of it and you can't change that very much. Or we tend to believe that you can always get better, sometimes a lot. It takes work. It doesn't come for free. But if you care and invest, if you invest energy and time, you can improve. So I'm going to talk about science. This is not just my opinion about these two attitudes. I'm going to run through an example of an experiment that has been repeated many times. In science, we say this has validity. The experiments have been repeated so many times by so many different people with so many different kinds of subjects that we say the results are valid. In this particular example, I'm going to talk about children. The very first time I gave this talk, I did talk about children, and I wasn't sure whether that was the right decision or not. But now I know that, well, we were all children. Many of you have children, and that we care about children. So I'm going to use as my example an experiment that was done with children. They were students. They were students in grade school. They were given an easy test in the first phase of the experiment. It was so easy, they all did well. And then after that easy test, the researchers did something that I'm going to share with you later. I will tell you later how they randomized and determined that some students would be categorized into the growth mindset or into the fixed mindset. So randomized, controlled, about 50-50, and I will share with you how they did that at the end of the talk. In phase 2, the students were asked, would you like to take a really hard test? This would be a lot harder than the one you just took. But in taking this difficult test, you would learn a lot. The experience might be difficult for you, but you would grow, you would increase your understanding. So maybe that would be a good thing to do. Would you like to take a more difficult test? Or would you like to just take another easy test, very much like the one you just took, the one where everyone did well? Now, think where these students are right now. They have just taken an easy test. They all did well. We don't know exactly what the researchers did, but somehow they put them into two groups. But nothing else has happened. These choices for the categories were random. A student is as likely to be in a growth category as in a fixed category. Nothing much has happened. You wouldn't expect that there would be a difference at this point. but there was. And in science, this severe difference is called statistically significant. The difference between the two groups based on their attitude was statistically significant. Almost all of those students who had been categorized as growth, they said, I want the difficult test. Whereas almost all of those students who had been categorized as fixed, they said, no, I don't want that difficult test. I want the easy test. And right away, we see differences between those two attitudes. If you believe that your intelligence or your talent or your ability, if you believe they are fixed and there's nothing you can do to change that, then you always want to look good. You want others to believe that you have it, that you are intelligent. And one way of doing that is to only choose easy tasks where you will do well. If, on the other hand, you believe that with effort, with a lot of hard work, you can get better, then you want challenge. You want to struggle. You want to learn. You want to grow. You want to get better. Very different attitudes that come from the simple belief in whether intelligence is fixed or not. Well, in phase 3, they gave the difficult exam anyway, regardless. And they said, while you're taking this difficult test, would you talk out loud? Would you tell us what you're thinking? And what they found was the students who were categorized as growth said to themselves, wow, this is a hard test. I better take my time. Let me read these questions carefully to make sure I understand. Maybe if there's something I really don't understand, I could ask the teacher for help. I like a challenge. This will help me get better. On the other hand, those students who were categorized into the fixed category, they said to themselves, oh, this is so hard. This test is so difficult. It's not like that easy test that we took at the beginning. I'm not sure I can do this. These questions are so hard. I don't understand. Maybe I can't do this difficult test. Maybe I'm stupid. You know, we all have voices in our heads, don't we? I have one that I know is my father. No matter how well I did in school or in any of my other activities, he would invariably say, is this the best you can do? I think now what most children hear from their parents is, oh, you're the best. And when I see that for myself, I wonder, why didn't my father ever tell me I was the best? Why didn't he ever tell me I was perfect? Why didn't he ever tell me I was so talented? And what we're about to discover in this research is that if you say to children, oh, you are perfect, oh, you're the best, oh, you are so talented, we know what we're doing to those children is we are putting them into the fixed category because we're saying, I know that you have it. And that's what counts. You have it. You are intelligent. You are so smart. Whereas if we use a different vocabulary and talk about working hard, is this the best you can do? Then we move those children into the growth mindset where they know that, well, I may have been born with talent or intelligent, but I can always get better if I work. So I didn't appreciate it at the time, and I'm not sure my father knew this research. But I am thankful for my father and what he told me, because of what he said. Those words that were a little uncomfortable at the time, they made me work hard. It turned me into a worker, someone who likes challenge, who embraces struggle and growth. Phase 4, they said, we just had you take a very difficult test. Would you like to see the exams of those who did better than you? You might learn something because those students were able to answer questions that you couldn't answer. You could learn a lot. Or would you like to see the exams of those who didn't do as well? Think a moment. How do you suppose the children in the two groups answered this particular question? Would it make a difference whether they were fixed or growth? It certainly did. Statistically significant again. The growth students almost all said, I want to see the exams of those who did better. I will learn a lot. Whereas those who were in the fixed category said, no, I want to see the exams of those who didn't do as well, because seeing those exams will make me feel better. I will be able to compare myself with those who didn't do as well, and I will be able to say, I am better. I'm smarter. Obviously, I have it, and they don't. What a difference. Phase 5. Now they were given another easy test, very much like the one in the very first phase. And they found strikingly that the growth students did better. The growth students had been through this difficult test, had struggled, had looked at exams of those who did better, had improved by almost 30%. Whereas the fixed students, even on this easy test, their scores dropped. Going through that difficult experience made them feel that they were not quite as smart. They had to struggle. And so they actually made themselves a little less intelligent. Phase 6, all the students said, we're going to give this exam again. We're going to do this experiment many times. Is there anything you would like to write in a letter to the students of the future? Tell them what this experience was like for you. And, oh, by the way, if you like, you could include the scores that you got on your exams. They found that those growth students wrote letters that were full of advice and encouragement. They were a lot like we could call it coaching. They were like the coaching they gave themselves when they were talking out loud during the difficult exam. They said, you're going to take a difficult test, but don't be discouraged. Take your time. Make sure you understand the question. If there is something that puzzles you, well, then ask the teacher for help. They were encouraging the students of the future. The fixed students, Well, they were not encouraging. They said to the students of the future, you're going to take a difficult test. You're probably not going to do very well. That's just the way it is. Difficult things, well, it's a challenge, and most of us don't do well. And then, when given a chance to share their scores, almost half, 40%, inflated the values of their scores. Now, I don't think those students were being deceptive. I think those students really wanted to look good so bad that they thought it would be okay to just perhaps make themselves look a little better than they actually were. This turns out to be a characterization of people who hold a fixed mindset. In order to make themselves look better, they will inflate their own performance, make themselves look a little better than they actually were, so that others around them will believe that they have it. They have intelligence or talent or ability. All of this research is from the work of Carol Dweck. This is a book about research, but it's very easy to read. It's not a large book. It's not like Thinking Fast and Slow, which is a large, difficult book to read. This one is easy. I encourage you, especially if you have children, please read this book. If you don't have time for the book, here are some articles that you should read. And if you can't find them, because I know sometimes the New York Magazine and the New Yorker charge their subscription publications. If you can't get a hold of them, please send me some email and I will send you the articles. If you have children, please, especially, read the article by Poe Bronson, How Not to Talk to Your Kids. If you're really interested in more about the research that Carol Dweck is doing now, she is a professor at Stanford University, and this is her website. She has started a lot of research efforts in schools around the world. Mindset Online will give you more information about that research. Again, if you can't find these, I'll be happy to send them to you. Read more. So I'm going to change something in the vocabulary. Carol Dweck says fixed versus growth. But when I discovered this research, it seemed to me that she was talking about the core, the essence, the heart of what makes Agile different. It is about growth. So let's look at the differences in these two attitudes, fixed versus Agile. Remember, the core belief for fixed mindset is that any talent, any ability, your intelligence is fixed. You have it when you are born, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's like height. No matter how hard you work, you can't change your height. The Agile mindset, on the other hand, believes that no, your talent, your ability, your intelligence can grow if you work at it. It's like a muscle. When I was 30 years old, I remember reading a report that said, at 30, you begin to die. You lose muscle, you lose bone, you lose mental abilities. You're not as smart as you were when you were 20. What we know now, what science has told us, is that that information was wrong. What science tells us now is that you can grow if you work, if you are determined, if you spend the energy. You can grow muscle, you can grow bone, you can grow neuronal connections in your brain until you die. It takes work. But what science tells us is the agile mindset is correct. The fixed mindset is wrong. So if we are looking for truth, if we are looking for what science tells us is the truth about us, then we should embrace the agile mindset. For those with a fixed mindset, the goal is to look good because that will convince everyone that we have it. Whereas those with the agile mindset, the goal is to get better. I want to learn. So therefore, those with a fixed mindset typically avoid challenges because now we might not look good. We might even, well, we might fail. Whereas for those with the agile mindset, the challenge is something we embrace. Bring it on. We know that challenges will help us get better. For those with a fixed mindset, failure means you are a failure. The children in this experiment who struggled with the difficult test said, I must be stupid. I can't do this. Failure on a test meant they were a failure. For those of us with the agile mindset, we know that failure is a way to get feedback, data, information. Failure points out where we need to work, where we need to spend time. I am also a musician, and I know that when I have trouble with a particular passage, that means I need to practice. I need to focus on that part of the music. That's where I need to spend my time and energy. Because I can't do it very well, that information points me in the direction where I need to spend time. If you have to work hard at it, that means you don't have it. Effort, that's for those who don't have it. Whereas those with the agile mindset, we know that effort is how you get better. Investing energy helps us become a master. And then finally, the psychologists have a word for those with a fixed mindset who inevitably reach a challenge that they cannot overcome. They become helpless. Helplessness. I guess I can't do this. I guess I'm not smart enough. I guess I'm not good enough. Labeling themselves as utter failures in the face of challenge. Whereas those with the agile mindset, faced with a challenge, bounce back. The expression for that in psychology is resilience. We are all facing difficult times now. It is so easy for us to fall by the wayside, helpless. Will we ever overcome this horrible virus? Will we ever get back to normal, whatever normal is? Or will we embrace it as a challenge, as a way to learn, as a way to make sure that when we have conquered this virus, we are better than ever, and we will have learned from the experience? I know you're not going to understand this connection, but for me, seeing Carol Dweck's work was an explanation for something I have never understood. Why aren't there more women in the STEM fields? Why do we not have more women in science and math? Now, this isn't true everywhere around the world, but in the Western world, it is. In the United States, it is. We do not have enough bright little girls who decide to become scientists. Computer science, chemists, biologists, physicists. There are some, of course, but not enough. Carol Dweck has studied bright little girls. And what we know about them is they do very well in school initially. When they start out in school, they are superb. They do everything well. Their teachers love them. The parents love them. Their grandparents love them. They have wonderful communication skills. They know exactly what to do and how to do it, what to say and how to say it. In Carol Dweck's research, she has discovered that bright little girls, as a cohort, that means as a group for study, as a cohort, they have the most fixed mindset on the planet. And when the world begins to change around them, when they leave grade school where things are pretty easy, and all of a sudden they have to start a difficult math class or a difficult science class, those with a fixed mindset face a challenge, they become helpless. I guess I can't do this. I guess I'm not smart enough for this. I'd better go find something that's easier where I can do well without struggle. And they leave those difficult things behind. And we lose all of that talent, all of that ability, all of that intelligence, all that diversity that we need so desperately. Well, Linda, it seems kind of simplistic, doesn't it? I'm not sure that's really true. I'd have to look at the research because after all, I mean, what about bright little boys? Well, bright little boys, they don't do as well. They're messy. Oh my goodness. Does this look like some Agile projects you've been part of? You see, they missed a big section over there in the corner trying to cover everything with paint. So they were just having fun, but they got into trouble. Bright little boys, well, it's not that they're not smart because they certainly are, but they're messy, they're not careful, they don't have good communication skills. The teachers are always telling them, why can't you be neater? Oh, this homework is such a mess. Why can't you pay attention? Why can't you sit still? Why can't you be more like your sister? Bright little boys struggle every step of the way. It's never easy for them. They're always getting into trouble. So when the hard stuff comes along, that's nothing new. It's all been a struggle. It's all been a challenge. So they don't regard the hard subjects as anything different. In Carol Dweck's research, when she has studied bright little boys, her conclusion is that this cohort, this group of people, they are the most agile on the planet. Bright little boys. They're not afraid of anything. They embrace challenge. They are agile. We know it's not just people. We know that companies can have a mindset I don't know if you're old enough to remember the Enron scandal. They said, we only hire the smart people. In fact, they called themselves the smartest guys in the room. This is a picture of Ken Lay. It's his mugshot before they hauled him off to prison. They had the fixed mindset, the entire company. The goal there was to hire the best. That makes me very nervous when I hear any company who believes themselves to be agile to talk about that, the best. How do you decide who's the best? And suppose you have hired someone who was the best last year, and now you hire somebody else this year. Well, is the best this year better than the best last year? Or how would we compare to people who are the best? Their answer was to do something called rank and yank, continuously comparing, continuously ranking people, continuously firing the people at the bottom. Well, if the people at the bottom were the best, how could you possibly draw a line and say, oh, well, you're no longer the best, we're going to fire you? In an environment like that, can you imagine? Your project is compared with another project, your team with another team. You know that in the ranking, there's a danger. You want to make sure you look good. If you didn't have the fixed mindset when you started to work at Enron, you sure would after the first performance review. You would do what you could to look good. You would do what you could to make your work better than the work of someone else. And that might mean, remember what the students did in Carol Dweck's experiment. They were a little deceptive. They lied. And that's what happened at Enron. People began inflating their performance, claiming things that had not happened, deceiving the accounting, and after a while brought the company down. It's a disaster. I haven't been on an airplane since March. My favorite airline only goes within the US, so I couldn't fly to Brazil on Southwest. But Southwest has been studied as a company by so many different business schools. It's famous because it's not just about an airplane. Southwest claims we are a company of people, not planes. That's what distinguishes us from other airlines. How do they hire? It's called the Southwest culture. They hire for attitude. They want people who are, well, they don't say it, but what they're looking for is people with the agile mindset. It's called the Southwest spirit. They want people to learn. They want people to grow. They listen. And even in tough times, they do everything they can to avoid firing people. If we were going to talk about an agile company, at the top of the list, we'd definitely have to include Southwest. We know managers can have a mindset. Here are two papers that every one of you who is a manager should read. It shows that if managers have the fixed mindset, then they begin to see people differently. I remember the first time I read that managers make up their minds. Those with a fixed mindset make up their minds so quickly, long before they've had a chance to really see how people perform. They've already decided who has it and who doesn't. And then they treat them that way. And by their treatment, they cause that behavior to emerge. I asked friends of mine who are managers, because I've never been one. I said, is this true? Do managers typically make up their minds very quickly about, well, who has it and who doesn't? And the managers I have talked to all said the same thing. Well, Linda, I guess you could say, well, sure, yeah, maybe we do. But you know what? We are always right. Of course they are. If they've already decided who has it and who doesn't, then that's what they will see. That's how they will treat those people. Those people will know they're being treated as though they had it or they didn't. Their performance will be reflected in that treatment. They will create reality. These papers are about that research, how powerful management opinions are, and how their belief can create the teams they believe already exist. Again, if you can't find these, please ask me. I'll be happy to send them to you. Some good news. We know that you have a growth potential. Even if you have the fixed mindset in some areas, we know that itself is not fixed. You can change. We know that we can change ourselves, that we can change others. We know that our interactions with our children can move them in one direction or another. We know that it doesn't take very much. We know that just a small thing, telling others about the mindset, what you have learned in this presentation today, gives you enough information to share that with others so that you can all move in a more agile direction. Now, earlier, I promised you that I would tell you how the researchers assigned children randomly to two different categories, fixed or growth. So now I'm going to make good on that promise. If you'll remember, in phase one, all the children took an easy test. So the research determined who was going to randomly be decided to be in one group or another. To those who had randomly been assigned to the fixed category, they said, here is your test. You did very well. You must be smart. To those children randomly assigned to the growth category, they said, here is your test. You did very well. You must have worked hard. And that's it. The very first time this experiment was carried out, the researchers were astounded at what a difference those very small manipulations made. Simply saying, oh, you must be smart, or oh, you must have worked hard, was enough to get statistically significant results in that experiment. And remember, it has been repeated, not just with children, But with teenagers, with adults, with older adults, sports teams, people in business, that experiment has been validated. So let's talk about what you can do. Talk about effort, how hard someone is working. Talk about the work they are doing, the strategies they're using. Don't ignore failure. Talk about it's a way to get feedback. This is going to give you information so that you can get better. Never label anyone. Oh, you're the talented guy. You're the artistic person. You're the one who's the expert on Python. You're the database guy. It implies that somehow you have it and others don't. It pushes people into the fixed mindset. Talk about growth, talk about effort, talk about hard work, talk about practice. Avoid labels, avoid talking about talent or ability. This is true not just for your children, but for your colleagues, the members of your family, and certainly for yourself. So the first time I gave this talk, people said, well, Linda, I need some more details. Can you give me some specific things I can say? So I'm not going to read these. You're going to ask for the presentation. You can read them later. So here are details. Here are some very specific things you can tell to your children, to other adults, your colleagues, the people in your family, to yourself. What can you say to yourself? And the most important one is this in red at the bottom. Say, I'm not good at this yet. Instead of saying, I'm not good at this, I must be stupid. I'm not good at this, I'll never figure out how to use this programming language or this tool or this environment. Say, I'm not good at this yet. We know that Agile development is all about failure. So I went out to a lot of websites, I scraped off expressions around failure, and I found so many. Fail early, fail often, fail fast, learn constantly. Failure is an option. Without failure, how can learning happen? Kent Beck said, perfect is a verb. He means perfect. Perfect means something without a flaw. Perfect is a verb that means get better. Right up there with Southwest, my favorite Agile company is Menlo Innovations. If you go to their website, which is simply menloinnovations.com, you're going to find a lot of information about Rich Sheridan, who's the CEO and co-founder, and all the wonderful things they do. He says, make mistakes faster. Spotify's founder says, we aim to make mistakes faster than anyone else. This is what Agile is all about. Embracing failure. Agile mindset, Agile development, they both believe we are all about getting better. If you look at what Agile was like 20 years ago, it's not the same. In fact, a test, I got this from Joe Yoder, a test for Agile companies is if you're still doing the same thing you were doing a year ago, then you are not doing Agile. We got to talk about change and growth and learning and improving, and that never ends. I'm going to close with one of my favorite quotes from an Irish poet. ever tried, ever failed. No matter. Try again. Fail again. Fail better. Thank you, Samuel Beckett. I know all of you are so tired of online meetings. All of you are so tired of being in your rooms with your small families or perhaps by yourself. So I want to offer an appreciation at the end to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your time with me. I really appreciate it. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now, and I hope that you will let me see you and perhaps come up with some questions or comments. I get to see you.
Very
Hi,
nice. Thanks, Linda. That was awesome. Thanks for getting me enthusiastic again. Thank you. That was awesome.
Great talk. We are all amazed. Kind of very simple lessons that we can carry for the rest of our lives, and this is very, very important. So I was really excited about it. So some questions. What do you think? Comments? Kaina, you can start.
Linda, you said I have something that I want to talk about. When you said about fixed, you described the way they generally listen when they are young and things like that, and they say, "Yeah, that's me." But when you start to talking about how they do, the resilient, the continuous, I said, "No, that's not me." Since I was very young, I need to learn that I cannot stop, I cannot cry, I need to move.
yeah,
That make me who I am, but I think my way of seeing the others is still fixed.
yeah.
How I can change that?
So we know that everyone is a mixture. Nobody believes completely in one or the other. We all have areas. So my example for me is that I feel I don't have any talent for art. I'm a musician, but I have trouble drawing. And since I do a lot of facilitation for meetings, I'm always embarrassed. I can't draw. Do you see what I said? I said, I can't draw that. That's the little voice in my head. And when I hear that now, I have to say, no, 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 you can't draw yet. I can't draw yet, but I'm getting better. I practice. Lots of people from around the world have sent me notebooks. It's wonderful because I always talk about how this is a problem for me, and then people try to help me. So you should do the same. You will find that you'll have an area like art, and you say, you know, I keep telling myself, I have this little voice in my head that says, I can't draw, but I need to say, I can't draw yet. And then others will help you. So listen to that voice. Whose is it? Is that your father, as it is for me? Is that your teacher? Is it a mother, someone who told you and you believe them and now you can't change? No, I think you can have a conversation with that little voice and say, you know, I think I could get better at that. I think I can try harder. I think I could learn how to. Would you experiment with that?
Yes.
Would you experiment? Because that's what it's all about. We will never be perfect. Even I have been working at it so much longer than you have. I'm still not perfect, but I feel I am getting better. So you can get better as well. I believe in you, Kaya.
Thanks.
And I like that what you said earlier too, Linda. Is perfect as a word. I'm never perfect, but I can perfect what I'm doing. I can continuously.
Yes.
So I'm not a good drawer either, but I can take little steps to get better. and
Yes.
a lot of baby steps.
Yes. And now, since we can all get on the internet, there are so many, there are YouTube videos on drawing. There are all kinds of books on how you can draw anything with 3 lines. So I practice with those. And that's what it takes. It's not just saying it, it's actually practicing. What can I do to get better at this? What sort of things can I practice that will help me get better? Not just wishing it, not just believing it, but actual practice. So we know that's why very young children who are good musicians, who are child prodigies, most of them never succeed because they never learned how to practice. They were always told from the beginning, oh, you are so talented. You're the best. And they were good. They were good. But they never learned how to fail. They never learned how to get better. They never learned how to practice when things didn't come easily. So I was a mathematician for a long time. And I know that I'm not a genius. And when I took graduate courses in math, I had to develop a lot of tactics, things that I used in very difficult proofs. And I was in classes, in graduate classes with geniuses. These were people who were mathematical geniuses who were so far ahead of me, but they didn't know all the tricks I knew. And when they ran up against a problem that they couldn't solve, they fell apart. They had the fixed mindset. They told themselves, I saw them drop out. They never finished their PhDs. Whereas I knew I wasn't a genius. I had failed so many times, but I knew ways around it. I knew how to get better. I knew techniques that they didn't know. It's surprising to me what they didn't know, even though they were geniuses. So I've always regarded that as something special, since you're not a genius. You've got lots of ways of working around it and of getting better. So I feel sorry for geniuses now. Should I feel sorry for you, Joe? Are you a genius?
No. I've worked real hard my whole life, Linda.
I
I've
know.
had to go through many different painful things up and down, and I still do.
Yes.
But I know I'm not. That's why when
No.
people call me, we jokingly say Master Yoda or putting the foot, but no.
Oh,
I
I
know
have
it
to
takes a lot
disagree,
of
Joe.
hard work.
Sorry. You are the best hugger in the world.
Ah,
Well, my home number is Dig Hugs, but I'm missing hugs, so I'm definitely
yes.
suffering. I even
Oh,
have hugs for my cell phone, 4847 needs hugs.
so
I'm definitely missing that. So
after the pandemic,
I love hugs.
you have to deliberate practice about hugs. And Linda, so I'll get to this a question about it. So this is a very important lesson, and I think deliberate practice, it's a very good tool to keep practicing. And this is used for people that are already on they are masters on the field, like tennis players, professional ones, or people that play music very well. They
Yes.
keep practicing. Why?
That's right.
We can
That's right.
always improve.
Yes.
There's no
Exactly.
roof. Oh, I cannot go further. Yes, you can.
Yes, exactly. And I think that there are a lot of musicians now who are struggling because we can't have concerts anymore. We can't gather in groups. And as a musician, what I see the resilient musicians doing is they are learning how to use technology when they never had before. They're learning how to use GarageBand or Audacity to make recordings. They're learning how to use Zoom in order to have workshops and concerts. They've never done this before. So you can see there are now almost two groups of musicians, the ones who have adapted and the ones who have not. And it's not about the music. There are equally talented people, but some of them were resilient and will survive. And the others said, oh, I can't give a concert anymore, so I don't know what to do. I can't see my students anymore, so I don't know what to do. And they're not learning. They're not taking advantage of everything that this experience, we think of it as horrible, but it is teaching us. And some of us are going to learn a lot, and others are going to either not survive or just waiting. I'm just waiting for the virus, waiting to get back to normal. That means we didn't learn anything. We have a wonderful opportunity to really learn something from this. As difficult as it is the ultimate challenge. Other questions?
Hi, I'm Thiago.
Hi.
I wanted to make a comment. I trained karate for a long time in my life. And my sensei, he would always tell us that we should never say, I can't do it. Well, he would always tell us to say, I can't do it yet, but
Yes.
I will be able to do it. And he would also experiment with us. Like when we were very young, we would play some games, and the person who was winning, he would start telling him that he couldn't do it. He wouldn't be able to continue making scores. And then the person would fail. Or he'll like compete against the person. And then he will tell us, see what happened there. He will explain the situation and the experiment and everything.
Yes.
And tell us that we should always work hard and never think that you can't do it.
Yes. Yes, exactly. Because your best friend and your worst enemy is your own brain. Your own brain can either tell you the right message or it can tell you the wrong message, regardless of your talent, your ability, how much time you've practiced. If your brain is telling you the wrong message, then you will fail. And it's your fault. You have made yourself fail. It's not that the teacher did it or the students in the class did it. No, it's your own brain. So if you don't learn how to talk to yourself, what messages, so you can practice that simply by listening. What messages do I have in my head now? Is there some way I could change that message? I could practice. I need to practice. Because we all got that message from somebody else. And so now it's time for you to take charge. Make it the message you want. Make it the message that will help you get better. That's a great story. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Linda, in my classes, I say to the students that the more important practice or value about agile methods is continuous improvement. Do you agree with it?
I think that's very important. Yes, because if you're not, most of the time you're not static. That is, you always change. So if you're not getting better, that means that you're probably getting worse at whatever it is. You think that you know how to do it, whether it's an agile practice or I see this in musicians. They are still doing things exactly the same way. A year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, I hear a performance by a musician. I say, they're doing that in exactly the same way. They haven't learned anything. They haven't practiced. They think, I've got this down, so I don't need to get better. Well, that's a sign that they probably haven't been learning anything. It's an attitude more than anything else of getting better, of change, improving, realizing that we're all going through that. And if you're not getting better, then you're not doing it. You're not a good musician. You're not practicing Agile. I had Joe Yoder's quote in there. You're still, do you remember Joe? I have that documented. Yeah, if you're still doing Agile the way you did it a year ago, you're not Agile. You should be doing something different. You should be learning. It's continually experiment, little tiny things. Yes. Other questions?
As I said, maybe it's your last chance today to talk to Linda. Take it. Take it. Go ahead. Don't be shy.
I have a
So
question.
don't forget. Hi, Thais. Yes.
Hi. When I was a child, I realized I've known about this growth fixed mindset thing for a while now. And when I was a child, I had great incentives to have a fixed mindset, and somehow in the way, I started adopting this growth mindset, and I learned quite a lot. But during college, this has changed again with computer science specifically, and it's a funny thing. So it's a very specific question. I find myself having a growth mindset for things that I want to do, but avoiding my obligations, I suppose. And I like to reconcile those things. And even though like I want to learn the things that I should be learning, I learn things that I don't have necessarily a pressure to learn, even though they are sort of related. So my question is, how can I adopt actions to change this mindset in this specific context?
So we all do that. We all do that. It's a lot easier to do some things than other things, of course. And we all are lazy. In fact, the universe is lazy. You know, water does not run uphill. So this is a physical thing. It's definitely a physical thing. And I know that I should practice more, but I don't always work as hard as I should. So we all have that. So begin by realizing that this is always going to be the way it is. You're never going to solve it. You're always going to have some strategy. You'll say, I know that if it's really hard, I'm not going to want to do it. I know that if it's very challenging or difficult, I'm going to want to go the other way. I know that I'm going to be discouraged when I have challenges. I know that. So now, what are you going to do about it? The first step, and maybe the only step that you need to do, is to say, I know I'm doing this. I know I'm doing this.
Right.
And I know it. I know I'm doing it. And so it's not that this is something that exists in the world that you can't do anything about it. You're doing it. It's your decision.
If you don't admit it, you'll never.
That's right. You won't admit it.
You got to start with that.
Yes, you have to start and you say, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. So a good example, and I don't know, this may be a stretch, but you likely know the United States is going through enormous upheaval right now. We have just had a very contentious election, and we're still working through who won the election, what will happen next, how will we, so all of us are on one side or the other. No one is in the middle. No one is neutral. And when we think about the people on the other side, we think they are stupid. We think they are horrible. We think they are un-American. How could they? How could they be on the other side? So what I have to tell myself when I feel that way, because I do, is that's me. That's me. That's not them. Some of the people on the other side are people I care about, are people I love, are people that I have as my friends and my neighbors. They are not stupid. They are not evil. They are not un-American. So whenever your mind is telling you something about the way the world is, whether it's about the way other people behave, whether it's about challenges that you face in your, it's not out in the world, it's in your brain. And the first thing you have to do is say, yep, I'm doing that. Yep, I'm making that harder than it is. And I know that if I will just do one tiny, small thing, just take a step, just do one tiny thing, then I will get going and it will get better. So what I do is I talk to my neighbor who had a big Trump sign out in her front yard, and I am not a Trump supporter. So whenever I start feeling this, I say, I know what I have to do. I have to go out and talk to my neighbor. So she comes out on her driveway. I go out on my driveway and I say, hi, how are you? Are you okay? I have to talk to her. And as soon as I do, then I say, ah, she's not evil. She's not un-American. She's not stupid. That was all in my head. I was doing that. So you have to find some small thing for this challenge and say, I know that if I just do this one small thing, it will help me get moving. And then I can see it's in your head. You're the one who's doing this to you. So that means you can do something about it. You can get moving. And that's all you have to do is get moving. Take one small step.
All right. I've been through the same politically, and I did the same after a while. I really understand your I really understand your experience.
Yeah. And of course, and we all do that. We all do that. So it's not that I'm evil and I'm the only one in the world who's going through this horrible upset. And I have to continually remind myself that we're all doing it. I just have to walk outside and talk to my neighbors and say, okay, I know they were Trump supporters, but we can still have a conversation. And
Yeah, I
that
don't want
helps.
to disown my family or my friends because of all that.
Yes.
By the way, there's something else that Linda really said. I think that it's kind of hidden in her message, but it's very powerful for me too, is because sometimes I get overwhelmed if I all of a sudden want to play guitar. Well, I'm not going to be playing the guitar good right away. There's a lot of baby steps, a lot of little things,
Yes.
you know. So first I got to stop telling myself I can't do it, and maybe I can't do it yet, or whatever. And then there's all these baby steps. And I think that's important too. I don't have to do it all at once. I'm not going to be able to do it. And if I do that, I become overwhelmed and then I just don't do anything. Yeah,
Yes.
I become so overwhelmed with it.
Yes.
I tend to do that, to overlook these baby steps and be pretty overwhelmed by things. So
yeah, exactly. I'm reading a book now that was written by John Lewis. I don't know if you know who he is, but he passed away this year. He was a representative in the House and federal government. He was a civil rights worker, and he talks about the timeline for change in civil rights in the United States. And when he does, he talks about 100 years. It has taken 100 years, 150 years since the end of the Civil War. So if we expect that we're going to become an expert guitar player or whatever it is that you want to master, that if we think of the timeline for a lot of change in the world, some of it has taken a lifetime. it has taken John Lewis his entire life. So it's not going to happen right away. And you have to keep telling yourself, well, I'm not a great guitar player yet, but I know that if I keep practicing, I will get better. Realizing you'll never be perfect, but you'll be better tomorrow than you are today. Thank you, Joe. That was awesome.
Just a comment. We are lazy by evolution because we have
Yes.
to save energy. So
That's
the
right.
brain has a lot of traps that will make us like save energy.
Yes.
We have to be aware of it, and then it will be easier.
Yes.
It's about it. It's about avoiding the traps because the brain is there to.
Yeah.
Oh, the
It's
sofa
a
is so
legacy.
comfortable. I'm not going to exercise or whatever, and it's really complicated.
Yeah, it's important to say that if it's an evolution thing, from that comes, it's not easy to keep that yet in mind. It's a waste of energy. We have to spend some energy on that, and it's really baby steps that are really hard to take, but that's what that's where the difference comes from.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And in fact, all of this is pretty much hardwired. The fact that we're lazy, the fact that we eat too much, that's certainly a phenomenon that's happened during this viral pandemic, is that all of us are at home and we are surrounded by too much food and we're not able to exercise like we were. We can't go to the gym. And so we're all gaining weight. I'm looking at you. You don't look too fat though. You're fine. You're fine. But yeah, it's a hardwired thing because we didn't have enough food. In the Stone Age, we were always hungry. So we are hardwired to eat, especially sugary things, fatty things, and eat as much as possible. Yeah. So there are all kinds of things that our brain does to play tricks on us and move us in the wrong direction. And you have to take control over that. Little baby steps.
Okay.
So I would say, let's take, after this amazing talk, little baby steps to make this world better. Not
Thank
only
you.
for us, it's for everyone.
Yes.
And I know we are over this partisan thing, oh, red or white or whatever, blue or red, or
Yes.
let's make the world better.
Amen.
This is what we want.
That's right.
Oh,
Absolutely. And we hope that's how we're headed. We hope
yeah.
that's where we're going. Yes, we hope.
And if we're learning as we're going, if we see we're going the wrong direction, this change.
Yeah, adjust.
Adapt.
Adjust.
Yeah.
Yes, inspect and adapt.
Inspect and adapt. Absolutely.
So Linda, it was a really great talk. It's really inspiring talk. We usually take just about 1 hour, but today we spent a little bit more time because it was so great. And I really want to thank you. And thanks for having Joe also here, because we are
Thanks for inviting me.
today.
Thanks for letting me know. I know I missed a couple others, but now I'm back on the agenda. I know what's coming up.
You don't miss too much, Joe. That's awesome. Well, we have Thanksgiving coming up, so I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving. I'm so grateful that you all spent the time with me today. So thank you.
They still have Black Friday, even though they don't have Thanksgiving. They celebrate the economical Black Friday part of it. So that's still big in Brazil.
All right.
Well, Black Friday is still going to be all online this year, right? So
yeah, shop online.
Yeah.
Everyone, please be safe, stay well. I hope to see you all sometime soon. Bless you. Blessings.
Thank you
Bye-bye.
again.
See you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was
Bye-bye.
great.
Thanks,
you.
Linda. Bye-bye.
So,
Thanks,
Joe,
yes.
we are going back to programming in Discord. If you want to take a look, João, he has a Discord channel. Oh, mic, no mic, no mic, mute. Okay. Okay, Joe, I don't know if you have some